you say, it's great to be here. My role is to be mostly a discussant of what Professor Gross said in such a wonderful way. I have nothing to add. I think I fully agree with all the things he said. All the concepts are now widely shared in a world of the most, I can say, advanced and open-minded professionals. So I think it's very important that we share all this knowledge together. I would like to add something related to personal experience I have in Italy, in Trieste, and referring to something which is probably closer to what's happening in Greece in the recent years. So the concept of deinstitutionalization was a key word in understanding what can be done in mental health. And you are ending a process. I hope that the quality of services will not be destroyed completely by the crisis, but should be improved. And this is the risk everywhere, also in Italy now. But it's curious because this concept of recovery, if you think, that probably you have no precise words to translate it into Greece. I heard from Stelios there are a couple of words, iasis from Hippocrates and anarosis, which are combined together, they can give an idea of this. And in Italy it's the same, so we don't have a specific word to translate recovery. We can say la ripresa, which means starting again, and guarigione, but which is cure. It's more a medical concept, so it's a very ambiguous concept, but it's an open, because of this ambiguity, it can be very important for putting the seeds of something new in mental health. I also have to say that everybody has his own recovery in life for many reasons, sometimes for very hard events that can happen, that almost everybody must experience in their life, like such losses, or sometimes loss of status, loss of money, loss of jobs, particularly in a situation like this. And so we all have to do our recovery at some stage in our lives. So it's nothing different than recovering from a severe event, which is mental illness. But of course the challenges that are put on a person with mental health problems are much higher than everybody can experience in mental health. It's an old concept. This is true. It's more than 20 years. Comes from the USA, so that's why we are here. Probably it's very fit perfectly in the American College Institute of Psychology, and so it's based originally on an idea based on the individual, on the role of the individual, and what we call the subjectivity, more European concept in the process of recovery, of improvement in mental health. So what is the role of this individual? What is the weight and the burden of the illness as compared to the role, the active role of self, the active role of the person, and what are the circumstances of the life of this person important, how they can be important for recovery. So it's important to understand why this concept, which is so important, didn't really affect organization and institutions in the psychiatric world after 20 years. So I look very glad to this effort that the Center for Mental Health is doing now. I told Professor Grove that today in Italy, in a place near Brescia, there is a seminar of this group that he is part of, about our teaching to Italian professionals and users and family members what is recovery, how to implement in the organization. So it's very important to come to this new step, which is starting from a philosophical idea and from the burning, as I can say, experience of people, direct experience of people with mental health problems, to the change of the organization, this shift from something which is related to the experience to something that can be rooted in organizations. This is a very important historical step. It's not clear how we can do it, but definitely we have to do it. Closing psychiatric hospital was not enough in Italy. I think it's not enough in Greece, because institutional thinking can be reproduced in everything we do in mental health, even in new settings. If you keep the whole idea that you are a mental health professional, or better, psychiatric professional, looking at an illness and trying to detect the symptoms of this illness, trying to provide a diagnosis, and mostly pharmacological therapy, and that's it. If you broaden your vision and you look at the person in the social context, in the practical circumstances of his or her life, you have to adopt these concepts. So it's also important because a concept like this is based on the idea of a dialogue. It's an old idea, another old idea, but we must believe that it's possible to transform institution from a place where you receive passively diagnosis or other intervention on you, upon you, I don't know what is the English, correct English to say, but it's something that you can discuss, negotiate. So what is your, what are the factors that can influence positively your life that you can discuss with your service, with the professionals that take care of you, with your key workers, with your case managers, and with your family. So what is the meaning that we can share together about what we can do? This meaning is related to the meaning of the person's life, his objectives, his aims, desires in life. So this is very simple, but it's very difficult to achieve in mental health because we are all overwhelmed by professional ideas, concepts, ideologies, and techniques. So it's very difficult to go beyond. The concept of going beyond what is the professional law knowledge is one of the key issues in recovery, because, and this appears clearly from all the researches that have been done in this field. For instance, we participated in international cross-cultural research, Italy, Sweden, Norway, and France, and USA. We shared a number of teams around the interviews on a number of people in recovery from severe mental health problems. And one of the key issues was the role of professional is important, the role of service is important, but it's particularly relevant when they are capable to go beyond their role, sometimes breaking the rules or breaking the roles, so doing something more than is expected, so revealing an aspect of the human beings beyond your professional role. So this is another key issue. So the person is definitely the most important resource for recovery. We recognize that. It's not only based on an individualistic idea of recovery, but we have to recognize the person is a value, is the key value and the key engine in the process of recovery. But all the relationships around the person are also important. So family, what is the role of the family members, how they can support recovery. And in doing that, they have to do their own recovery as professionals. And the professionals, they have to modify their role. What is the role of resources that can be available in the social field, in the services, I mean, in what can be achieved from the society. So it was mentioned, of course, work. We do believe that, for instance, in Italy, one of the most important results of the reform was joining the institutionalization to the development of opportunities for work for people with mental health problems. We have recently finished a research on job placement in the mental health departments in Italy, and this clearly demonstrated that the social cooperatives were the real I mean, the instruments that they can use. 80% of the mental health departments in Italy declare the most important partners for them were the social cooperatives. So this is a movement in Italy, as you know. There are more than 2,500 social cooperatives developed. And in the sample of the service users that have been studied in this research in overall Italy for 1 year was a sample of 14,000 people. 1/10 of them at the end of that year became fully employed. They received their work, and 80% through the social cooperatives. The half of them were suffering from a psychosis. So this is something that can be offered and taken by people with severe mental health problems. It's nothing that has to do with a fully recovered person or a person with a neurotical problem, but also for people that have good skills that can be discovered in a process of offering them opportunities and going in their own way to recovery. So again, its concept of solidarity is important now. So we have to recognize that recovery is a subjective thing, but is also an interpersonal action that can be done between the person and the social concept, the social relationships. So it's an interpersonal journey, it's a social journey. In the research we did, persons were considered to be fully recovered when they regain a role, a place in the society. They started to have a value in their social networks and have a role. So this is very important because there are many ways of getting back a concept of full citizenship. So citizenship is another key word that, in my opinion, must be added to the concept of recovery. So recovery can be better, positioned in a number of connections and links, like, of course, we said digitalization, so moving from old institutions to new services, which is not enough, as we said, but also the concept of citizenship. So you are a person in recovery if you are a citizen that is exercising full rights, particularly social rights. So having a work, having a house. Another important result of this study was that people that regain a house, which is totally different than the experience of living into an institution, of course, but the shift from the concept of a house which is not a lived experience to a house which is your house, where you can open the door to friends, to relatives, and create the house as a sort of space for social relationships on one hand, and on the other hand is your private space. So in this balance between the private and the opening to the others is another important meaning of the recovery process. So having a house is another point. Of course, the role of a professional must be better explored. So I would like to say, in Italy, this partnership now is explored through, not only through the development of a new way of thinking and operating in the community services, which is very important, and all the suggestions set up before by Bob Grove are all useful, but also in the partnership between the public services and the NGOs, because NGOs represent the citizens. They represent different points of view, and mental health is a concept which is not only related to social psychiatry, it's something completely new. So we have to recognize what is the contribution of new subjects in this field. So I would like to finish and say that, in my opinion, it's important to understand that a citizen is a person with rights, with obligations and duties, of course, that is fully rooted in the social fabric. That means we cannot have a full recovery if we have still a situation where these rights are seriously harmed or denied, like, for instance, restraint in psychiatric settings, restraint like we have in Italy, because we close the asylums, but in small hospital units we have, in a small place with 15 beds, you can have locked doors, you can have a physical restraint, mechanical restraints when you're in crisis. So your right to receive help is denied at the same time. It doesn't go together with the right of being a respected citizen, so in your freedom and in every aspect of your life. So it's important to progress also with this idea that we have to abolish all the forces which are still oppressing people in mental health. So it's not impossible to have a recovery in an old system of care. We have to reform the whole system, we have to change the way of thinking, and as one of our friends, John Jenkins, used to say, we have to link in a cycle a change of thinking as a change of practice and a change of services. So all this cycle can be the only way. We cannot deny the importance of the other 2 points. So it's important to do this in a very strategic way, and recovery can become a real change if we move from a very individualistic position that I can understand to a systemic change. So if the system are affected by change, this is the only way to open ways for people with mental health problems to have a full experience as citizens. Thank you very much.